Hi, Alan Schimmel here for DevOps.com's DevOps TV. We're at DUS 2016, and happy to be joined by Sam Guckenheimer and Ed Blankenship of Microsoft. Gentlemen, welcome.
Yes,
Thank you, Alan. Great to see you again.
Here.
Great to see you and hear your voice, Sam. You know, we've interviewed you now several times.
Yeah.
And always a great interview. Got a
This is the first time for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've got a lot to live up to, my
That's
friend.
right,
But
that's
it's
right.
okay. You guys just presented.
Yep.
And actually, Sam, you did two presentations today, but I wanted to talk first about your joint presentation, which was a little bit about Microsoft's own journey
Yes.
of moving to kind of one engineering platform system, whatever you'd like to call it. And so let's start there.
Sure.
Yeah. So if you roll the clock back a few years, there's a famous drawing by a Google engineer of Microsoft's org chart, where the different divisions are in circles pointing guns at one another. And that was emblematic of the company. You know, it had, for the first few decades, had the philosophy that we will let the divisions be autonomous, we'll let them run their own engineering systems, but that way they will go faster and be more effective in their own domains. The actual consequence of that decision was that they built up a lot of cruft. They went slower and slower over time, and they were unhappier and unhappier with their own tools. So the flip that happened about 3 years ago, about the time Satya Nadella became CEO, is that we said, you know, the saying, the African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, applies to us too. So we wanted to go far, and we said we will use internally what we provide to customers, and we will get the benefit for customers from what we use internally, Visual Studio Team Services, and we'll put people in the company on one engineering system. Now, that puts big requirements on that engineering system. It has to support Linux, Android, iOS, everything we develop for. And it has to be best of breed at Agile, at version control with Git, at the continuous integration, continuous delivery pipeline. But those are all good requirements to have, and it has to scale up.
So what you're looking for is truly best of breed.
Yeah, so we're looking for best of breed. We want to have the engineering system that our engineers want to use. That's right. Okay. We've grown from no one 3 years ago to about 62,000 as of last month in terms of internal users. I mean, there are millions external, but we're our own largest customer.
Wow.
And our own most demanding customer. You know, everyone has, you know, the internal directory and the phone numbers and
it's scary.
the IAM and what have you. So, like, you know, you screw up.
It's
everyone thinks
under a
they're
microscope.
different.
Yeah, well,
No, everyone thinks they're special.
That's true.
right. Everyone thinks they're privileged.
You should live
That's
in
right.
Boca Raton. But, just saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know a few people like that. Yeah. Anyway, and so how long has this project kind of? Well, you mentioned when Satya just came about
so
3 years ago.
So we're a little under 3 years into this journey. There is broad adoption, as I said. We grow a few thousand every month. We're now at about 62,000 internal users. Every new project starts there. Not every historical maintenance project switches there necessarily. So, like, one of the lessons learned is when you're moving to Git, don't bother moving the history. You know, just start with a tip.
And Sam, you don't want to clone the entire Windows code base in a Git repo on your laptop.
Probably not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
Yeah, so one of the other lessons is start from the right. Get the continuous integration, continuous deployment working right, and then move to the left, upstream, refactoring an existing code base
That's right.
to more of a microservices pattern so that you can have smaller repos,
Right.
but get the immediate benefit out of CI/CD.
So you're starting at the tip, because I'm afraid when we say we start at the right, we talk about so much in DevOps shifting left,
Right.
right? People are going to think we're kind of going against that mantra,
No,
and we're
no,
not.
no.
What we're starting with is we're starting with the most recent stuff rather than going back and trying to undo stuff from the time of the beginning of the world.
Exactly. So
Exactly.
there's a tendency to say, well, if I'm going to switch tools, I want to carry all my baggage with me. And the reality is that the cost of doing that isn't worth it. It's like when you move house, right? You have two options. You can either throw stuff out before you move,
Right.
or you can pack it all, take it with you, and
then
then when
throw
you're
it out when
unpacking,
you
you
get
got all
home.
this stuff, and you say, "Oh my
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
why did I bring this with me?"
I've been there. So my rule is, if it sat in the garage for a year and a half, throw it out.
Oh yeah.
You
That's
know
right.
what? Throw it out. My
we're
wife
not-
doesn't always
yeah.
agree with me, but
Yeah, we're not actually saying throw it out in this case. We're just saying keep it where it is.
right, don't necessarily
Right,
modernize it.
but keep the source where it is. Keep the tests where they are. You can keep that alive, but focus on the new work.
That's right.
So does that create sort of this bimodal IT environment, or
Oh no.
No, so I mean, for some of our products, there are 10-year support contracts or more.
right?
Right? We need to keep supporting them. But if we are moving that team into the new engineering system, we don't try to move the stuff that they are still supporting.
Right.
Right.
And that's by design.
So it's new stuff rather than sort of starting with brownfield.
That's right. And even before the one engineering system, I would say that's the typical pattern we had.
Yeah.
We kept the repos in place, we kept the build processes in place, and then we would have this time where we would invest in making the engineering process better.
Yeah.
But the old releases were pretty much that way. Now that we're moving more to a services type
Yeah.
of world, it's just a continual improvement. But now we're at least on one same foundation, which is
And
the
that's
one engineering
great.
system.
That's a great case study. And then and Microsoft's their own best customer, and that's not unusual. I mean, not to talk out of school, but we had the HPE people in here earlier today, and they're their own internal eat the dog food. Of course, they're going through a bit of a craziness right now between divestitures and
Yeah.
mergers
Yeah.
and
Yep.
mergers
Yep.
and lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! It's
Different
tough,
set of
but-
problems.
but different set of problems, but similar in
Very,
that they're their own customer, right? You have
Yes,
an
that's
IT
right.
organization here that was serving tens of thousands of people, and now is still serving tens of thousands of people that work for 5 different companies that are merging with 3 other new companies, and no one knows where they're going to spin the wheel, and where she ends, no one knows. Sam, you did a lean coffee today too on one of
Yeah.
my favorite subjects, and that's security and DevOps. We don't have a lot of time to discuss it, but just wanted to mention it, and if you can give our audience just maybe a
Sure.
tip of what
Sure.
it was about.
Sure. So, we, Gene holds this forum, workshop where he gathers a few of us on special topics, and then we bring the results here and continue with them. One of them was about integrating security and compliance into the DevOps pipeline. And Topo Powell from Capital One
Sure.
and I were leading that, and the observation is that the state of the market is that security is typically done too late. People say we scan once a quarter, we scan every major release, we scan blah blah, and then we produce this wall of issues that we hand back to the development teams. The development teams say, sorry, too late, can't deal with that. And
We'll catch it on the next release.
yeah, we'll do it next time. And why didn't you give this to us earlier? And the observation is that it is now possible to shift left with security.
At least the scanning of it. There's really no reason not to be scanning
Well,
earlier.
so it depends what you mean by scanning.
Right.
So some things, like open source component scanning, are fast and can be worked into the pipeline. Other things, like static analysis security testing, aren't fast enough for continuous integration. But you can have a second build environment that will do that
Like a rolling.
and give you results maybe daily. And in some cases, you can do incremental scanning so that you can just get on the
Once
full
you've baselined it, there's no reason you can't incremental scan for in a
provided
continuous integration pipeline, if you will.
provided your tooling is capable of doing that. The issue with security and static analysis is that you have this big data flow graph that is really behind any of the security code scanning. And it's very complex to take an increment matched to the data flow graph and be able to provide reliable results. So there are only a few vendors who can do that reliably today. So most people are not in a situation where they can actually do incremental scans based on code. But you can scan for components that are being consumed, and that is entirely practical to do in minutes and fit into CI. And so we're talking about these practices. We're talking about how to get InfoSec involved. At Microsoft, with Team Services, have a number of partners who've now come into our marketplace who help with this. And it was interesting. A lot of folks there were at a state of, what can we use? We don't know how to do this. How can we bring in InfoSec people? And the concerns were very common. And I was astonished. I thought the room would have like a dozen people in it.
Yeah,
I
it's
had like
huge.
10 times as many, and it was overflowing.
So, you guys probably don't know this, but my background is security, and I founded a company called Still Secure, and we network access control, vulnerability management, and intrusion prevention. And so my core belief is this is not a tools issue. There are enough tools to do that scanning, even the data graph and incrementals and diffs and components and so forth. I think it's a people issue. And I think there's a people issue on both sides of the coin,
Correct.
right? On both sides of the aisle. In that the sec people, the InfoSec people, tend to dig their heels in, say, I'm not going to let you go that fast because I got to check this stuff. Otherwise, we're all going to wind up in jail at the PCI corral, right? And wherever they're taking us. And on the other hand, the dev people say, oh, those security people drive me crazy. And they're not fast, and they're going to hold us up, and they always say no, and their tools suck, or they're open source, or whatever.
Right.
And so there's a clash of cultures, clash of clans, like the TV.
Well, that's right, because the InfoSec culture is used to scanning the results.
Yeah.
Right.
Is used to testing the results,
But-
as opposed to securing the process.
Right.
Right.
No, because scanning the results in the InfoSec culture, I always said, was akin. I'm from New York, if you couldn't tell from my French accent, but scanning the results in InfoSec were like the people who paint the Verrazano Bridge.
Exactly.
The Verrazano Bridge, they start January 1st on the Brooklyn side. And sometime around December 30th, they
make
finish
it
in
to
Staten
Manhattan.
Island.
Yeah.
That's right.
Just in time to go across the bridge and start again January 1st in Brooklyn. Right? And so it's the same thing with security. We like to run those goddamn scans, and we get a book this thick.
Right.
Okay, now we're going to start mitigating. And before we mitigate, let's prioritize. Right? We're going to prioritize which ones, then we're going to mitigate, and just in time to run another scan. It's called job security, right?
Yeah, it's called waste.
Yeah.
So the goal is to get clean and then stay clean.
And
So-
but once you're clean, right? Once you're baselined and you're clean, it should not be a federal intervention to stay clean is my point. I think the
should be a daily
technology-
habit.
Yeah, it should be what you
Should be
do.
part of what we do.
That being said, we can talk all day about
yeah.
this, and I'm doing our Sec DevOps, Rugged DevOps at RSA event again this year, on Monday of RSA week, and we'd love to have you submit on this, so maybe we can talk more about it there.
Nice.
I wanted to quickly pivot, if we can, in just a little bit of time. Microsoft has been doing so much lately around containers, microservices,
absolutely.
Docker on Windows, the pigs fly, right? And
Hell is frozen.
look, they used to say that about Linux on Windows, and look where we are now, right? But I
Our
want,
fastest growth, it's
Is
Linux on Azure.
yeah, absolutely, and absolutely. And the thing is, though, you make fun all you want, but they've done a really nice job with Dockers. Dockers are pants you wear. With Docker containers on Windows,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
And I happen to know over on DevOps.com and on Container Journal, our container site, we have a couple of articles up about a new lab that Microsoft's put on. Hands-on lab. You don't need
right.
anything. Log in via a web browser. You could spin up a Windows Nano server. You could spin up a Windows desktop. You could install Docker. You could uninstall Docker with Hyper-V, without Hyper-V. There's and they did a great job on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I totally agree. So that Docker on Windows is great. The idea that Docker can manage Windows server the way it manages Linux is fantastic, and we're
Absolutely.
supporting that in the release pipeline as
You are.
well.
Good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Docker
it's-
tasks right there.
Yeah, so if you're using team services, that works for both Windows and Linux. We love the way containers are moving, practices forward, and
Yeah.
It's great.
and I think that's a great way to learn about. Docker
It is.
Windows.
This lab's a great, because I'm no developer, but I logged in 30 minutes I went through the lab,
Nice.
which to me was very cool. So again, if you're interested in that lab, check it out on DevOps.com or Container Journal. It's a great hands-on lab that our friends at Microsoft have made available for free. And I think you could even then go play with an Azure account with it as well.
Absolutely.
But I only did the hands-on lab. Anyway, gentlemen,
Yes.
thank you for presenting at DevOps Enterprise Summit again. In your case, Sam, and thanks for allowing us to interview here on DevOps TV today.
Always great to
Thank
talk to
you.
you, Alan.
Always great. Pleasure meeting
Appreciate
you.
it.
Pleasure
Thanks a
meeting
lot.
you, Sam. Always a pleasure to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Alan.
We'll get it. Anyway, this is Alan Schimmel for DevOps.com's DevOps TV at DOES 2016. Have a great day.